Today let's do the APES geography review. So normally in a normal year I have kids get together in groups and do this together in your group, so kids split up the 4 parts of this. But because it's such a strange year, we're going to do this together on video. It will save you some time. So the reason you're going to fill it in yourself is because the act of answering and writing in the answers, even if I give them to you here, will help you prepare for the AP test. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the answers to here, and then we're going to flip it over and we're going to fill in on the map where those locations are. So on the AP test, they will often give you a map of the world that looks like this, and they'll have an A, B, C, and D, and they'll ask you questions about AP Environmental Science topics based on the location of the map. And this is a very common type of question, and usually it's about 3 or 4 questions that come off of a map each year on the AP test. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the key here. So go ahead and pause the video and fill in your own paper. All right, now that you have paused and you've unpaused the video, let's go ahead and identify these locations on the map. So go ahead and fill in your map. And so the United States, there's a few things here to know. You need to know in the US we have most oil consumed, so I'm going to put that here. Most oil consumed, and it's the most coal, and it's the most natural gas. Now it kind of flip-flops with Russia by year between production and consumption. So some years the United States is producing more natural gas than Russia, and sometimes it's the opposite. So those things about natural gas, you just need to know liters of natural gas are the United States and Russia. So this is the US right here. Okay, we know that. That's the easy one. One thing that you may not know here is that Venezuela is the most oil reserves, or actually let's go down the list. So that's probably a better way to do it. So you need to know the most desalination plants are in the Middle East / North Africa. So I'm going to put that up in this area. So this area here, so Middle East, kind of this area, would be the Middle East and North Africa. And you're going to have most desalination plants up here. Another thing, it's also the lowest freshwater availability. So those things go together. So because North Africa is the Sahara Desert and the Middle East is also deserts, like Gobi Desert, things like that, they have very little water, but what they do have is an abundance of oil, especially in places like Saudi Arabia and Iraq, which are over here in the Middle East, and they have a lot of oil, and they burn that oil to desalinize ocean water. Now it's highly polluting, and as far as air pollution and climate change, and it's very, very expensive. So the reason why we don't have a lot of desalination is due to cost. It would raise the price of our water bills. It would triple them, quadruple them. So we have other solutions for fresh water. All right, the next one on your list, most deforestation, is Brazil. So this is here, Brazil. So I'm going to put most deforestation. And that's with the Amazon rainforest. You should probably note that that is Brazil here as well. The most oil reserves is here in Venezuela. Most oil reserves. And I'm just going to put Venezuela here. Most oil consumed I have here in the US. Top 2 countries that produce oil, we're going to put here in Russia. So I'm going to put oil is a big deal up here. This is one that flip-flops too. Sometimes it's Russia, sometimes it's Saudi Arabia. So I'm going to put a dot. I've actually sort of scribbled it in. So maybe if I change colors, it might be a little more clear. So here's Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is also known for oil. So this area here, desalination, oil, deserts, all of that good stuff. United States we already have for coal. I'm going down our list. Worst air pollution is in China. So here we have China, and it's known for air pollution for one thing. China is also known for having a lot of coal as well. Highest percentage of power is nuclear energy. So France here is known for nuclear energy. Now, the United States leads the world in the most megawatts produced of nuclear energy, but the highest percentage of their own electricity is France with nuclear. France is just a smaller population, so the United States produces more megawatts of power, but it's a larger population, so it's only 20% of our power. France, they produce less power, but it's 70% of theirs because they have a smaller population. For wind, so France is nuclear, and Denmark is wind, and Denmark's up here, so we have Denmark, and that's wind. So on the AP test, they won't have two countries like super close, like A and B super close to each other. They'll sort of spread them out. So you just kind of need to know the general vicinity of these locations. Hydroelectric now is China with Three Gorges Dam. But the highest percentage of their own is Norway. So up here, I'm going to put Norway, and that's hydroelectric. So I'm just going to put hydro for hydroelectric. So China produces more megawatts of power, but there's 1.3 billion people there. Whereas Norway, there's just a few million people in Norway, but almost all of their electricity is hydroelectric dams. So you can only put dams in places that have a valley that you can't, with a river that you can dam. So it's not everywhere that you can do this. Norway just happens to have a lot of mountainy regions and fjords and things like that. The United States, I put natural gas. Geothermal is here in Iceland. Iceland is a very common question because there's a lot that goes on in Iceland. We'll see that also on part 2. So Iceland is leader in geothermal. Solar and wind technology, again, they kind of flip-flop. So over here we have Germany is over here. So Germany. So like production and technology can be Germany, but also China is a leader with solar and wind as well. So they manufacture a lot of solar panels, they manufacture windmills, they also use it. But remember, China is so big in population that they have to use a lot of variety to meet their energy needs. Highest population density is over here, so Southeast Asia, here India, Bangladesh. We have here in Southeast Asia, we have our highest population density. And then highest per capita freshwater is over here in Oceania. So Oceania is over here, kind of all these islands, has the most fresh water per capita. Now, what this means is per person. So it's not like they have the most rain. Actually, Southeast Asia probably has more rain than Oceania, but it has a huge amounts of people splitting up all that rain. So per capita means per person. So over here in Oceania, you have a little bit less rain, and some parts of Australia are very, very dry. with a lot of fires, but they have less people to split up all of that fresh water. Okay, so hopefully yours is a little less messy than mine, but let's go on to part 2. So in part 2, we're going to draw on our map, and so let's go ahead and do that. So first we're going to draw our plate tectonic features that you need to know, some of the famous ones. So you don't have to know where all the plates are in the world, but you need to know a few famous plates. We did this really a long time ago, kind of at the beginning of the year. So let's talk about Iceland again. So Iceland is also one of the few places on land where you're going to see a divergent plate boundary. It's also in the African Rift Valley. But so here, just kind of draw through like that, is the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, which is a divergent plate boundary. So we're going to label that Mid-Atlantic Ridge, which is also known as a divergent, sorry, my shadow makes it hard to see, boundary here. Okay, so, and you can see it's up here on land in Iceland. You can also see that here in the African Rift Valley, which kind of goes like this. And so this is, again, the African Rift Valley. And again, copying this stuff down again helps you learn it, and it's divergent plate boundary. So I'm just going to put divergent. The next one you need to know, and feel free to pause whenever you want or whenever you need to. Up here in the Himalayas, you've got plates crashing together. And so we have here convergent plate boundary. And you need to know that this is the Himalayas. So Mount Everest is here in the convergent plate boundary. So they are getting taller. In some places, though, one plate subducts below the other. And so you create, so we have these two plates coming together, but one is going the other. And so you end up with a trench. You can end up with a volcanic island arc. And if you want to see all of this stuff, go back to your geology diagram notes to help you. And this is Japan. It's also in the Aleutian Islands. The same process, the famous places are up here. So this is the Aleutians Islands. And it's also the convergent, so the plates are going like this, and that's a convergent plate boundary and an island arc, volcanic island arc. Another one that's divergent, so it's splitting apart. So we have our big divergent here going up and down the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. So divergent means pulling apart, so you can put these arrows to help you remember that. We also have one over here. So the Pacific Ocean is mostly one big plate, so it's not divided into like the Atlantic. But we have some places where you have some divergent. Here in the Pacific Ocean is called the East Pacific Rise. And that's pulling apart, that's divergent as well. And let's see, there's a couple of things over here off the coast of the Oregon and Washington. We have a place that's supposed to, it's kind of overdue for a massive earthquake and tsunami here in Oregon and Washington. And so this is convergent. There's a trench off its coast, and yeah, all right. Where we are down here in California is we have the San Andreas Fault, and we have it's called a transform plate boundary where they slide past each other. So if you remember one plate, let's see if I can remember which way it is. I'm pretty sure this one's going down and this one's up, but I could have that flipped, but that's okay because you don't need to know that. You need to know it's a transform boundary. You don't need to know which plate is moving in which direction. And then over here in Hawaii, that's Hawaii. It's a little bit, they put this little square because it's not to scale. It's actually more out here in the Pacific. But Hawaii is a hot spot volcano. Remember, that is not on a plate boundary. Many of you get that wrong on tests, but it is in the middle of a plate where there's a crack that allows magma to rise. We also have that here in Yellowstone. So Yellowstone's in the middle of the North American plate, Hawaii's in the middle of the Pacific plate, and this is, they're just a crack that allows magma to come through and create islands or a volcano here in the middle of the continents. In Yellowstone, it's a flat volcano. It doesn't make a dome. Okay, so those are our places you need to know for plate tectonics. All right, so also on this map, we have biomes. So we're gonna shade the most common biomes. So you don't need to know all of them, like every single little bitty location. So in your book, you can look up in biomes and you can see the shaded map. I'm just going to go through the most common ones so that if you are given a map with biome questions, that you will know the most common ones. So let's pick a color. You should pause the video and go grab some colors to use. So I'm going to pick this blue for the prairie, temperate grassland. So the prairie's in the middle of the United States. Now I'm going to use a lighter blue for another one. So this is the same biome, but it's called the steppe in Russia. So over here in Russia, we're going to have, again, temperate grassland, and that is the steppe. Next one, temperate deciduous forest, is also known with the new rewrite of the AP test. It's also known as a seasonal forest, so temperate seasonal forest. And they also have kind of combined that with dry forest as seasonal as well. Okay, so temperate deciduous forest, the most common locations, I'm going to pick green. Actually, I'm going to pick orange because the leaves fall off the trees. So I can kind of remember that with orange leaves. Eastern United States into Canada is a big spot, and a lot of the forests in Europe are our temperate deciduous forests. Over here in Japan as well, we've got our temperate deciduous forests. Okay. Again, these are not everywhere on the globe these biomes occur, but they are the most common places that would likely be on a diagram question for you. All right, let's do savanna. I like savanna with yellow because I think of Africa and savanna as having yellow grasses, also the green too. So anyway, your savanna is in kind of the middle of the continent in different places. It's kind of interspersed with some rainforest too, but we don't, most of our rainforest areas are going to be in places around the equator, and so if they ask you a rainforest question, they're probably not going to ask you in Africa. But if we think of the equator, and actually let's go ahead and draw the equator. It's kind of going through right about here is the equator. So remember, some of the things that can help you to remember these things is you have tropical zones. And so the tropics are, this is just a rough estimate, are kind of like here. And then our temperate areas are about like that. And then we have our polar regions. So this is, polar is kind of like that. Let me sort of zoom out a little bit so you can see it better. Then we have temperate. And then we have tropics. So this kind of helps you just sort of think and help you maybe on a test. Also, if you think about it that way, you can kind of see by latitude. So remember, the equator is 0 latitude. And we're at about 34 degrees north latitude. We are temperate. And so if you've got a temperate or tropic location and you want white colored roof to reflect heat, whereas in your higher latitudes, in your 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s north and 60, 70, 80, 90 south, you'd want a dark color roof because it's a cold climate and you want to absorb heat. So reviewing your latitude, your lines of latitude is also helpful with all of this. All right, so next one, deserts. I'm going to do brown for deserts. So my deserts are found a lot of places 30 degrees north and south latitude. So we have a desert here, northern Mexico. In here, the American Southwest is desert. We have Mojave Desert, Sonoran Desert, Chihuahuan Desert. We also have deserts up here, and the Saharan deserts are popular. We have some desert here in Chile. It's about 30 degrees south latitude. And so really, if they're going to ask you about desert, there's also some in Australia. I don't know the exact location of the deserts in Australia. If they're going to ask you about deserts, oh, it's here in the Middle East as well. We've got deserts. It's most likely the most common ones are here in the middle and the Saharan, Northern Africa, over here in the American Southwest, Middle East. Those are the ones they're really going to ask you about if they ask you about deserts because they're kind of the famous deserty locations. Chaparral, which is also known as shrubland. So the AP test now calls Chaparral shrubland. And so Chaparral is also dry. It's our biome. So I'm going to put it here. I'm going to use actually, well, I don't know what I'm going to use. I'll just use red, like that, kind of a dark red. You can pick any colors you want. So here off the California coast, and we are in shrubland or chaparral. It's also considered a Mediterranean climate. So you've got Italy, Spain, Greece, into parts of Israel. So parts of Israel deserts, parts of it are chaparral. So kind of like this is chaparral. There's also a little bit in various little patches around the earth. Australia has some too, some South America, but the most common is California. Southern California has chaparral. That's going to be the most likely location, or here in the Mediterranean. Sometimes they say that in Southern California we have a Mediterranean climate, and we do. Okay, next is tundra. So I'm going to pick a cold color for tundra, which I already used my blues, so I don't know what I'm going to pick. I guess I'll pick gray. So tundra here is way up here at the top. It's where Santa Claus lives. Way up here, you've got tundra, tundra, tundra. Not all of Alaska's tundra, but all of this is. Not all of Norway, Sweden, Finland is, but the tops are. And then down here, Antarctica is tundra. All right, so that's pretty easy. It's the furthest north. Boreal forest. I'm going to put, it's also known as the taiga. I believe the AP test uses the word taiga. So that is higher than your temperate deciduous. So it's a little bit colder and a little bit less lush. So we're going to kind of put it here. It bumps up against the tundra. So we're going to have all of that kind of in here. Like that. That's taiga. All right, kind of like that here. And they're not exact, but they are close enough. Temperate rainforests. So temperate rainforests are ones that they don't get as much, they get a lot of rain, but they're not hot all the time. So temperate rainforest is, think Seattle. So I'm going to use a lighter green here. Actually, I don't know. I think I'm going to use pink, even though it has nothing to do with pink, to just keep my colors separate. So I'm going to use pink. It's over here, Seattle, Vancouver area is your temperate rainforest up into Alaska, kind of where you go on Alaskan cruises. In this area is temperate rainforest. You have some over here in Japan, but the most common here is up in the Pacific Northwest is our temperate rainforest. And then we have our tropical rainforest, and I'm running out of colors, so I think I'll do it dark pink since the other one was light pink. So anywhere around the tropics, so here you have our equator. So kind of a lot of areas, you have a little bit here and there in Africa, kind of interspersed with Savannah, but really they're gonna be, if they're talking about tropical rainforest, they're gonna be here, Central and South America for the most part. They're gonna identify as tropical rainforest. But there's also in Southeast Asia a lot of tropical rainforest as well. So remember, tropical and lots of rain. You have Costa Rica, Panama, you've got Ecuador, you've got the Amazonian rainforest. So this is Brazil, and that's usually kind of the location that they say tropical rainforest, even though it's in a lot of places on almost every continent, not every continent. Tropical dry forest you don't need for the new rewrite of the AP test, but I'll kind of show you where it is. So the tropical dry forest means it's in the tropics, but it doesn't get as much rain. It has some non-rainy seasons, and that is here in, I don't know why I chose that color. I'll kind of choose a peachy color. It's here in India. Think of where the tigers live. But again, you don't need to know that one anymore for the AP test. So these are your biomes, the major places. You'll notice a lot of this isn't even covered because all of this area is kind of a mix of different biomes here and there. I just showed you the most popular biomes, the location, not popular, but the locations that are more well known for this.